In this video lesson, we're going to discuss Challenge 50 version 3, what it is, and how we will complete the tasks for Challenge 50 version 3. So what is Challenge 50 version 3? Challenge 50 version 3 is a unit of work where each week we will learn the descriptions for 10 different tools and materials. Okay, so there'll be a video and PowerPoint posted each week where 10 different tools and materials will be discussed, and your task is to learn and memorise the descriptions of those tools and materials. There will be an assignment posted each week to test your knowledge and understanding of those tools and materials. After the second week, there will be 2 tasks each week to complete. One task where you cover the tools and materials that you learned that week, and a second task to revise everything you have learned in the previous weeks. And I'll discuss that in a bit more detail later on. What's the purpose of Challenge 50 version 3? Why are we undertaking this task? Well, firstly, is to be able to recognise the tools and materials when we're presented with them. So if we're working in the workshop, we want to instantly be able to recognise the tools that we're using, and we want to be able to make an educated guess as to the materials that you've been provided with, if the teacher was not to tell you the name of that material that you're provided with. We want to understand what these common tools and materials are used for, and by doing so, by being able to recognise and understand what these materials and tools are used for, we'll be able to make an educated choice in choosing an appropriate tool or material for a given task. And by being able to do that, we will meet unit outcomes for the National 3 Practical Craft Skills course, both for the working with tools and working with materials units. By preparing for the task each week, we will practice a number of revision techniques. Some of them I will go over in this lesson, and others you'll be able to try for yourself. And ultimately, all of this is going to prepare us for National 4 or 5, whether we choose to go ahead into design and manufacture or practical woodworking. The information that we're going to learn over these series of lessons will prepare us for National 4 or 5 in both of those courses. So how is Challenge 50 version 3 actually going to work? Each week, a new video and PowerPoint will be posted in the general channel of your design and technology / practical craft skills team. Okay, so you can see here we've got an example of the one that's been posted for this week, for week 1. So there's the description and there's a link to a YouTube video for you to watch, and that will discuss the 10 tools and materials for that week. There is also attached the original video file, so if you can't access YouTube for whatever reason, you'll be able to view the original video file. And if you'd rather go over the PowerPoint without the voiceover, the original PowerPoint has been posted as well. You'll also see here there is a link to a PDF document you can download for flashcards for revision, and we'll talk about them shortly. And there's also a link to the BBC Bite Size website with a series of revision tips. So it goes into more detail on how you can use flashcards and other revision techniques to help you memorise the descriptions for the tools and materials that you've been given for that particular week. The video for each week will show you the image, the name, and the description of the 10 tools and materials for that given week. And as I've said already, your task is to memorise the descriptions for these tools. So if you're presented with the name of the tool or the image of the tool, you'll be able to recognise it and recognise and remember what it is used for. Okay, so we can see the example on the screen here is of the tri-square. We can see the image of the tri-square and the description of the tool. And we can also see here an example of a material. So on this one here, we've got red pine. So we can see the name of the material, the description, and an image to represent what it would look like in real life. So as I've said, your task is to memorise the descriptions of these tools and materials, so that if you're presented with them in future, you will be able to recognise them. As I mentioned previously, alongside the video and PowerPoint, there will be a link to a PDF document for the flashcards for that given week. So you'll be able to open up that document and download it. So if you get access to a printer at home, you'll be able to print off those flashcards, simply cut them up into the individual cards, and you can write the descriptions on the back. So you can see an example here for the week 1 tools and materials. So we've got the 10 tools and materials listed here. So you'd be able to download that from Teams, print it off at home if you can, cut them up and write the descriptions on the back based on what you've learned from the PowerPoint or the video. If you don't have a printer at home, then you make up the flashcards on your own. Take up a sheet of paper, write the name of the tool on the front, and then on the back write down the description of that tool or material. And again, you can get that from the PowerPoint or the video. When you have properly revised the descriptions for the 10 tools and materials each week, you'll be able to access the assignment. Okay, so that will be posted in the assignments and home learning channel of your design and technology team. So all of the other information we've accessed so far has been in the general channel, but when you come to complete the task, you'll find that in the assignments and home learning channel. Within that channel, you'll see the task posted like so. So you see Challenge 50 version 3, and in this case it's week 1, and you'll be able to click on the View Assignment button to see the task. The task will look something like this, where you can see, again, I've got a link to the YouTube video if you want to watch it one last time before attempting the task. There's a brief description of the task itself, and you can see here a link to the task. So if you click on this button at the bottom here under Student Work, you'll be able to access the task itself. When you click on the link to the task, you'll be presented with a form like you can see here, and the task will include a variety of questions. So there'll be some multiple choice questions, some true or false questions, and some questions where you're expected to give a short written answer. So you can see an example of 2 questions here on the side for question 2 and question 3 from the first task. So simply go through the questions, answer them as best you can, and at the bottom of this task there will be a button to submit. As I mentioned at the beginning of the lesson, from week 2 onwards there will be 2 tasks to complete. So the first task will cover the 10 new tools and materials for that week, and the second task will cover all the tools and materials from the previous weeks, okay, to help you revise everything you have learned so far. So for example, in week 2, there'll be a task to test your knowledge of tools and materials from 11 to 20, and also a task to revise for 1 to 10. In the following week, in week 3, you'll have a task to test your knowledge for tools and materials from 21 to 30, and also a task for 1 to 20. Okay, so covering everything from the previous week. And week 4 and week 5 will follow on in the same sort of style. So by the end of this unit of work, Challenge 50 version 3, you should have learned the descriptions for 27 tools and 23 materials together, obviously making a total of 50. So at the end of each week, you should have a good understanding for the 10 tools and materials that you've learned that week. And after 10 weeks, we should have a good understanding of the 27 tools and 23 materials that we will have covered over the unit of work. Some final tips for you. Before attempting these tasks, I would recommend that you study the tool and material descriptions properly. So, for example, if you access this task on the Monday, I would suggest you leave it until at least the Thursday before attempting the task on Teams. Okay, don't rush into the task. Take your time to properly study and revise the tool and material descriptions. I would suggest that you do make flashcards. If you can print off the version that I've put onto Teams, then that would be great. Again, if you don't have a printer, I would suggest that you do make your own and try to use those to help you revise the material descriptions and the tool descriptions. Try some of the other revision techniques as well on the BBC Bite Size link. Again, that will be linked on Teams. You'll be able to find that link on the general channel of our team. Ask questions in the question space channel of the Teams. So if you've got anything you want to ask me, put it in there and I'll be able to answer you, or one of your classmates might be able to answer your question as well. What's left for me to say is to try your best and good luck.